Hello again. In this episode we head to Tyndrum to climb Ben Dubhchraig and Ben Oss, go in search of Robert the Bruce's lost sword, and visit an ancient wood that shows us how Scotland would have looked 1,000 years ago. Ben Dubhchraig is a 978-metre munro to the northwest of Crianlarich, forming a high horseshoe ridge with its 50-metre higher neighbour Ben Oss. The Tyndrum range is dominated by the majestic Ben Louis, whose dramatic east face is just one of many astonishing views on this rewarding route. From Dalry, the ancient pinewood of Coille Coiriculch provides a fine welcome to the mountains, and a very gradual ascent to the ridge earns the walker increasingly impressive viewpoints on the surrounding landscape. Ben Oss requires a steep 100-metre descent to the Beinn Dubhchraig, and bearing northwest at a small cairn, another 100-metre ascent to its north ridge and its summit another 50 metres above. The return route requires climbing back up to the ridge of Ben Dubhchraig and following the ascent route off the hill, as there are crags north of Beinn Dubhchraig where it drops steeply into Glen Cononish, and while negotiable, such a route would add a large detour into the glen around the sizable north ridge.
Well, here we are in sunny Tyndrum, just walking down Lower Station Road here to get to the West Highland Way. You're going to walk down to Dalry. So a little farm off the A82 just on the way here. I'm going to camp overnight and then do the hills tomorrow, so I get a nice early start and a full day. Now in the summer, Tyndrum is generally very bustly, but the good news is that it's fairly easy to escape it. This is a West Highland Way marker point here, so we're going to follow this down for a pleasant evening stroll. Well, luckily, I'm a football fan, and I don't come up here to escape the football per se, but there really is no escape sometimes. Now, once we're out of these woods, we'll be heading down hillside, we'll be able to see Dalry Farm, and hopefully we'll be able to see the magnificent Ben Louis, which we are in the shadow of somewhat today and tomorrow with these hills. Wawa-wee-wa! Here you can see Ben More, Stobinion there, the flat-headed screwdriver-shaped one, and Curracardran, three of the Crianlarich hills, the three highest actually. Beautiful view, isn't it? This charming little heather-lined path is going to lead us down to Dalry. Now Dalry is known as the King's Field.
It was here that Robert the Bruce's beleaguered forces were ambushed by those of former ally MacDougall of Lorne, now allied to the English King Edward, and the short, vicious battle that ensued saw Robert forced to flee with his surviving men. He was to get his revenge 2 years later, however, at the rather epically named Battle of the Pass of Brander.
Down here in Glen Cononish was a vast gold mining trade, and gold mining still goes on to this day. So I'll be keeping my eyes peeled. I don't know, I'll get that drone somehow. Ben Dubhchraig there behind me through the trees, beginning to come into view. And behind it, hidden as part of the horseshoe that the summit ridge forms, is Ben Oss also. Now as we make our way further up, we'll start to get some fantastic views down the glen to Ben Louis, the majestic Queen of the South, which shall be visited in a future episode. As promised, Ben Louis up there. Now this is Ben Dubhchraig. That looks pretty easy, doesn't it? I'm looking forward to the beautiful woodland that's going to be at the bottom of it, called Coiriculch. Contain fine examples of Scots pine and native woodland. So after the ill-fated Battle of Dalry, local legend has it that Robert the Bruce and his defeated officers threw their weapons into a small loch-in like this one. Unfortunately, as recently as 2015, studies were carried out by MacDonald Armourers of Edinburgh, brought metal detecting equipment to try and find this weapons cache. Unfortunately, they didn't find anything, either in this loch or around the surrounding area. So it would appear that the local legend is just that, a legend. Still, beautiful loch, as you can see. Okay, so we're just crossing the River Fillin here at the footbridge, and there it is, the beast we're doing tomorrow. Fantastic river scene here in the evening light. Good morning, campers. The majestic Ben Dubhchraig there rising between the hills, and behind me here, today's job, Ben Dubhchraig. Now just where the track begins to bear southward, this little bridge will come into view. This is mentioned in some guidebooks as being a rickety old footbridge. Doesn't look too old to me, and hopefully it won't be too rickety. We'll then proceed up through this called Coraculch, gorgeous woodland, and then onto the upper slopes of the mountain itself. Well, I think it's time the guidebooks were updated. There's nothing rickety about this. This looks like a brand new build. Fantastic walker's footbridge here. Cheers guys, that's what we like to see. Now this isn't a commercial project, this is purely for walkers, which is absolutely fantastic and something that you very rarely see. And this looks built to last, huh? Little river here that just asking for you to dip your feet into after a long hot day's walk. Now proceeding up here through the woodland.
This enchanting wood contains rowan, oak, beech, birch and hazel, as well as Pinus sylvestris, the majestic Scots pine.
This is what Scotland would have looked like 1,000 years ago. The mixture of trees that you can see is in fantastic contrast to the likes of these you can see peeping over the top there, that you will see arranged in quite geometric patterns on the hillside, which some find, including myself, a little bit off-putting. But this is absolutely gorgeous, wild native woodland. We're going to make our way up under this beautiful ancient pine here, further up through these fantastic woodlands. There's a triptych of paths once you've crossed that bridge. I've taken the one closest to the burn. If I were you, I would probably take the middle one of those, because that will take you over this hill a bit more and up from the burn. These ancient specimens of Scots pine up here in these woods provided the seeds for the superb native woodland plantations that we came through last night and on the way to Dalry. Well, we're beginning to leave the trees now, as you can see. And the mighty Ben Callum over there has opened its flank to us. As you can see up here, we basically follow the path over these little hillocks, then onto the broad main ridge. From there, it's an easy amble up to the summit of Ben Dubhchraig. Ben Oss, we return to the Bealach between the two hills, and then go southwest, curling round, kind of spiral into the summit. Well, here we are emerging onto the more open moorland, and as you can see, the broad ridge that runs up here to the summit, it's fairly easy to follow. I don't think we're going to get lost today. Here, as you can see, a fantastic example of water erosion in this soft igneous rock. It's got a miniature Grand Canyon here. It's the same principle. The water, this tiny little babbling brook, has carved its way through solid rock, creating these kettles, little kettle holes here, kind of deep bowls in the rock. Now this is presumably the dark crag, which Ben Dubhchraig translates to. Doesn't look very scary, does it? Well, up here it's starting to feel a lot more like a Munro. Our route up here we are up about 750, 800 metres. The view just gets better and better really. Stowvinion has joined Ben More, the southeastern skyline. In terms of Ben Dubhchraig, if there is a crux section, so to speak, it would largely depend on what the weather was like, what the visibility was like. I'd say in terms of effort, this is probably what you would call the hardest section of it. Once we're up on top of the ridge, it's pretty much a ridge walk. However, again, in low visibility, the crux section, if you're particularly doing Ben Oss, would definitely be finding your way across the Beinn and up to the adjoining peak of Ben Oss from Ben Dubhchraig summit itself, because again, it wouldn't be very obvious, as we'll see further on. Well, here we are, just coming up to the ridge top now, having done this crux section, which, you know, will raise the heart rate a little bit, but it's really nothing to worry about. Little cairns here would be very useful, although you would have done well getting up to this point without cairns. Ben Dubhchraig, and hidden over here is going to be Ben Oss, and the incredible sight of Ben Louis is to come. Talking of incredible sights, this is a pretty fantastic viewpoint, as you can see. Stowvinion and Ben More, Scathquil, Mail Glass, Ben Lors over there, the Loch Tay Hills, Ben Callum here in the foreground, Mail Acorleith and Mail Cononish, Ben Doran of course, behind it, Ben Andoy. Well, Ben Oss has come into view here, and the summit of Ben Louis over there, which will only get more impressive as we go up. Down there to Loch Lomond, the Arrochar Alps, our friend Ben Vui, looking quite majestic from last time. Ben Oss, of course, here, the second we're doing today. Ben Louis, which will be on another outing. Summit panoramas go, this is something else.
From the summit, descend the ridge down past the ascent path. You'll see a couple of small lochans, and there's a faint path that runs to the left of them. This will bring you to overlook Loch Oss. And start to bear northward before a rather steep descent takes you to the Beinn.
Okay, so there's a short bit of descent here down to Beinn and over to Ben Oss. Well, here we are on the Beinn Dubhchraig there behind me. Just come down there, and yeah, we're gonna have to go back up it to get back. What would normally be lochans here is basically very dried up bog, but you've got the beautiful cotton blossom. Now, it's very still down here. My jacket was necessary for the top of Ben Dubhchraig there because it was quite a chill wind, and there will be once we're on top of the ridge again. So it's always good to remember that you are going up mountains here. Around 1,000 meters, the climate is always going to be different from back down at sea level. So even if it's a blazing hot day like today, always pack something windproof. And obviously the most important thing that you need to bring up the Munros in the summertime, in this hot weather, is water. You can't rely on there being streams up here, especially at this time of year. Most of the ones that I've seen up here are dry. Now this little cairn here is where you leave the main path, because that's going to take you down the hillside there, and to climb Ben Oss up here. This little cairn marks the start of the path, and it is quite a faint path and it would be easy to miss, so the cairn is very much appreciated. Well, we're just coming up onto the northeast ridge of Ben Oss. Now, not far to go. Now, I said it was a small descent. I may have been understating it a little bit there. It has been fairly sweaty coming up here. It's fairly direct, as you can see, but there's not far to go now, and the view south is just beyond words, really. So onward to the summit. This is why Ben Louis is often referred to as the Queen of the Southern Highlands. Words can't really do it justice, can they? It does seem slightly out of place in these rather more gentle Southern Highlands. It is quite significantly more rocky and more severe, as you can see on this east-facing side, than almost any other hill I can think of, bar maybe the Cobbler. Here we are, finally, after a few false summits, approaching the top of Ben Oss. We're in the rare situation of about an hour after summiting the first Munro, of looking down upon the summit that we've just been on. Talking of summits, magnificent Cruachan Massif come into view there behind the equally magnificent Ben Louis. It looks so moody, doesn't it? Ugh.